This is the Spotlight segment. Stay tuned for premium interviews, device unboxing and more.
Well, let's move on to our Spotlight section then. And we're going to talk about a raft of new phones that have been released. I'll tell you what they are before we dive into each one and kind of compare and contrast them. So we have two from Samsung we think we're talking about. One is the Galaxy A35. The other is the Galaxy A55. I've got knocking around somewhere previous generations of each of that series. We've got the Nothing2A that we're going to talk about, and we have the Asus Zenfone11 Ultra. Where should we start, folks? Should we start with Galaxy and go from there? Anyone want to kick off this segment and talk about these phones?
John, Sally, or Karen, you guys are Samsung lovers. How about we start with this duo of Samsung phones?
Okay, so Samsung had revealed finally the A55 and A35. Of course, they were already leaked, and there was a German website that was actually having the phones with all the specs for sale. So the phone was for sale, and all the specs were there. But actually, the A55 is a 6.6 inch. It is bigger than the A54. It has the newer Exynos chip. They say that it's better. It performs better. We should see because no reviews yet. The phone should be available for pre-order, I think, on 29 March. The phone should be available in markets. I think that I was reading this today. You have the 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage as a starting thing. Then you have the 256 gigs with 8 gigs or 12 gigs, I think, of RAM. And I don't remember the details about the camera setup. I think the main is 50 MP, and I don't remember exactly, but we should wait for the reviews anyway to say, okay, if it's good or not with the phone. It is better in terms of quality, we should say, about the design. It is now with a glass back, and it was with glass back actually, but it's now with aluminum frames. I think it was plastic frame before. So yeah, it is as usual IP67 rated, which is good. And what else? So this is the A55. It has 4 years of software updates and 1 additional year of security patches. A35, you could say that it's close to the A54 because they're using the same processor. That was on the A54, last year's A54. So you will get the same processor. You will get the same years of updates, 4 years. And it is, I think it will be plastic back and plastic frame, but it will be cheaper. And it starts with 6 gigs of RAM instead of 8 gigs of RAM. So I don't remember with respect to screen, but yeah, if you want to compare them to what's available, if you want to have comments before, and then we can compare them to other phones that people can purchase. Because actually, currently I'm now in the market for a new phone, so I'm just so much into those things and was comparing stuff together. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think availability varies across markets. So I think in Hong Kong, for instance, they're already released. In the UK, we get them this Wednesday, the 20th of March, both of them. So I think they're staggering the release. And an interesting thing to say about the A55, I think, is that it's not available in the US. GSM Arena has speculated as to why this is. And they've said that because the S23 and the S23 FE are comparatively cheaper in the US than they are globally, they thought that if Samsung were to price the A55 for the US market, it would be within $50 of the S23. Quite how they know that when Samsung haven't released it, I'm not sure, but that's their speculation. And they say, if there's a $50 difference between the A55 and the S23, no way you're buying the A55. So what's the point? John and Warren, I don't know what you think about well, either the decision not to
Excuse me,
launch in the US.
Just I want to say that this was confirmed by Samsung to Android Authority. They gave this statement to Android Authority. So yeah, this is the exact reason why they didn't release it for the US.
Yeah.
They
Donna,
don't want to cannibalize their own sales. That's the bottom line. I mean,
Exactly.
they want you to force you to get their more expensive phones.
Exactly. And my question, though, is how much is the base model of the S23? Isn't that thing like maybe $700? I mean, isn't it the price for the base model of S23, for example? John, you remember how much the S23 cost?
I would assume because it usually goes down by 100 when the newer ones come out. But
Yeah,
Samsung also puts them on sale from time to time, so they might be even cheaper. I thought the A54 was
$449.
$450.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's not even close.
Yeah,
Unless
exactly.
they planned on making this one much more expensive this time around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
unless if they're making it 550 or something like that. Now, frankly, I don't think I want to buy that for 550 if they're going to make it 550. You know what I mean? I don't know.
If the A55 was available in the US, Warren would be very happy because the phone uses dual SIM, or you can use a single SIM and another SIM slot is shared for an SD card.
And I like the fact that phones use the eSIM, because when I took my Pixel overseas, I kept my Google, Google Fi Wireless running, and then I got a local SIM out there, and so I switch between them, or depending on what I'm doing. So I like this whole idea of this dual SIM. I never really thought I would like a dual SIM phone, but it did come in handy when I traveled. Most especially, using my Fi out there was a little bit more expensive as to using a local SIM.
Yeah. The base price for the A55 in the UK for the 128 gig model is $439. So quite often we get these days dollar for pound or worse actually on the Apple side of the house. So I'd be surprised if they'd planned it to be 550. So I think it seems a strange one on that, unless they have absolutely price crashed the S23 FE, for instance. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how they or GSM Arena got to that $50 calculation, but interesting nonetheless.
I think it may be $479 or $499 here in the US. I think it'll be, if it were to be brought here, it will be about $500. That's my guess. Yeah.
Maybe then. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so interesting mid-ranges from Samsung. I am disappointed that they've done the 4 years and not 7. I mean, updates are less frequent anyway because they're quarterly and not monthly. So I thought they might have given us 7, just as they gave the A series 4 when they gave the S series 4. I guess it's something they could change further down the line, but that is a bit disappointing, and I hope it doesn't signal a trend. For instance, when Google released the Pixel 8a. If they put that at 4 years instead of 7, I think that would be a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but at least, though, if they could have given maybe like 6 years of security patches or whatever. As for the OS update, I think that 4 years is probably good for a mid-ranger, or maybe give us at least 5, since the flagship ones are 7 years. Yeah,
but they took the mid-ranges with their flagships before, so when they moved to 4,
they did. Yeah,
the A
sure
series
did.
got 4, or
Yeah.
well, the good A series phones got 4.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit disappointed they haven't continued that trend, but never mind. Because, like I say, they've already made them less frequent, so there's still a benefit to getting a flagship. But yeah,
And
maybe that was too much of a leap.
I think that maybe if Google, for example, comes out with the Pixel 8a and says, hey, we're going to give it a 7-year OS update, then I'm thinking that next year Samsung would also come up with an A series that's going to be 7 years. It's like now Google is taking its proper role in determining
Yeah.
how long we should have. And I just wish that, the likes of Sony, Sony, I love you guys. And frankly, if you have 7-year OS update or 5 years at the least, I'll be getting a Sony phone without a doubt.
The thing about the Pixel series, though, is their A series uses the same processors as their flagship phones, so it's easier for Google to say, we'll support this for 7 years because it's got the same processor. So if Google comes out and doesn't support it for 7 years, that's going to be upsetting.
Yeah.
That totally
Interesting.
makes sense. It makes sense because, they're using the same processor. So it would be bad if Google doesn't give us 7-year OS support for the A series.
Well, other than that, they want to maintain a differential between the two devices. That's their reason for not doing. But hopefully, they'll do that in hardware terms rather than software ones. The next phone I think it'd be interesting to talk about is the Nothing2A. I hope actually the interesting development I'm looking forward to from Nothing this year is when the 3 comes out, whether we might get a 3 Pro or whether the 3, given this new A series, might be slightly more pro-ish. Why I think this phone is quite interesting is that it offers a 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage in the UK for £349, which I don't think is a bad deal at all, really.
That's a damn good price for that phone. Now, frankly, if one is looking for a phone, especially a mid-ranger, that would be the one to get at that price. And I don't know, it's not coming to the US. It's one of those things. Again, of course, I was reading something, a little interview where one of the CEOs was talking about the reason as to why they're not bringing it to the US. They're being cautious, and most especially the carriers in the US here are not partnering with them. And so that's one of the reasons why it's not coming to the stateside.
Have they said anything about software updates? I must admit I haven't looked.
I didn't look into its software support, since it's not coming. So I guess that's a little bit
Yeah.
selfish on my part. But also my experience that I had with it, with the Nothing 2, where I had to return it. I mean, I wanted to keep it, but I don't remember what it was. I think it wasn't making calls on my network or something like that. And the same thing was true with the OnePlus 10T or OnePlus 10, whatever. Or else I would have been, an owner of both of those phones. So I just hope that maybe one of these days, some of the carriers, especially maybe AT&T or T-Mobile, would jump on board, and then we'll see some of these phones. Because you guys tend to have all the good stuff, and we don't. And sometimes I'm a little bit jealous.
Yeah, we get a lot of phone choice, certainly here in the UK. Sometimes you have to order them from Amazon, but they're they're UK stocked, and then some of the electrical stores will sell them. Carriers can be a bit limited. I mean, I saw the Nothing Phone 1 briefly. I liked its build, and I liked, it was a nice looking phone. I might try and have a check out of the 2A, but like we were saying, sort of £349 for 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gig storage, almost regardless of whatever else it does, is quite good.
It's a good buy.
Yeah,
that's literally half the price of the Nothing 2 phone, and same specs. Well, same memory and storage, I think.
Yeah. No, it's
regarding the software update, it is for 3 years, like nothing from the same 23 upgrade, and it starts with Android 14. So we are now on Android. It was released with Android 14, so it should get until Android 17.
Not bad.
If you think then that the Samsung 8 gig 256 A55 in the UK is £489, that's £140 more. Now, it may well have better other specs, and it gets 1 year more software updates and 2 years more security, but still, I think the Nothing phone is still looking good against it.
Now, the Nothing2A. Isn't it running like on a one of the newest 700 series of Qualcomm chip? I don't remember. Does anyone remember what chip it is running on?
Which one do you mean? The 2A?
Yeah, the Nothing2A.
Yeah, it is MediaTek Dimensity. I don't remember the which one, but it's not a Qualcomm one. It's the Dimensity thing. I don't remember
I see.
the exact number
Okay.
because they haven't
700
used it.
Pro,
Did you say 700 Pro, Sally?
72 like 700 Pro. Yeah,
Okay.
the MediaTek Dimensity.
Okay.
Yeah.
And lately the the MediaTek chips have really come up and great contenders, and so it's not a slouch by any stretch of imagination. It's a good phone, and frankly, I wish I could get one to play with it, if at the least unbox it and review it for our channel. But we don't have it, so I can't get it.
One small thing regarding the two phones, because they are just competitors, and the Asus is a different category actually. So people who want to purchase a new mid-ranger should also take a look at some other alternatives like the OnePlus 12R, which is doing great. I think it will be slightly more expensive, but it is really something that people should look at. It's really powerful, and it has, it has better value for money, I think, compared to the A55. And the other phone that people could also take a look at is the Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus, which is also should be close to the A55. I'm more into the OnePlus 12R because it's a better phone, but unfortunately we don't have it, and it's not available in many countries. So unfortunately, we're just limited in choice. But the Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus and the OnePlus 12R are alternatives that people should take a look at if they want to to try to find the thing that will work for them. The 12R has the same 4 years of updates as well as the 55. The Xiaomi one has only 3 years. And I think that Samsung is more reliable in terms of updates and stuff. I'm not into Xiaomi things, but people who like Xiaomi may get the Redmi devices.
If you are considering a Redmi, it's worth checking, assuming it runs HyperOS, that you can use the TalkBack Braille keyboard properly, because they still haven't fixed the issue in HyperOS, at least on my phone, where you can't type a 3-finger character without doing it in the 2-stage process. So if you are considering, I think, any Xiaomi phone, if it runs HyperOS, then do try and get your hands on it if you use a TalkBack, any Braille keyboard actually. And if you can't, make sure you can return it if it doesn't work.
You're listening to the Blind Android Users podcast.
Now we move on to something a little different, phones terms, and we're getting into the flagship territory, or a no-frills flagship, as I think one of the reviews called it. And this is the Asus Zenfone11 Ultra. So more of a cost on the budget, but equally a phone with better specs. You've sort of got a 512 gig internal storage. You've got a 55 100 mAh battery. I think it's a pretty quick charging speed. It's not the quickest in the world. Is it 65 watts or something, I think?
That's plenty enough of a charge for me, as someone who really doesn't care about fast charging. The only time that I wanted fast charging was when I was in Africa, where electricity was so iffy, and I wish I could
Gotta take it while you can
something
get
that
it, right?
charges my phone in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you needed my 120 watt charging under 20-minute Xiaomi, didn't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had my little 5,000 milliamp Anchor that has a fast charging on it, and I tell you, that thing was a savior. It's so many.
That's a tiny
It's so
power bank,
specific.
eh?
It is it looks like a little credit card, but you can have it
Yeah.
in your pocket. I really love it. It's absolutely beautiful. Well, not to digress from what we're talking about, but frankly, I think that Asus, the Zenfone guys, finally realized that the compact thing is not selling. So they finally have jumped into where everyone is, because let's be honest, most people like bigger phones. Yeah, there are outliers out there that want something a little compact, but that's not the majority of the people, most especially when these days everyone seems to be consuming content on their phone. So having a little 5-inch phone is not going to cut it. So I'm glad they finally jumped onto a bigger screen. And I would love that phone, but frankly, 2 years of OS update, I don't think I want to dump that money on that kind of
Yeah.
phone.
That's garbage.
There are many things that don't cut it at 5 inches, aren't there? Phones being one. Leave it up to you whether you leave that in or not.
John, you wanted to say something about that Zenfone.
Yeah, I understand why Asus did it. They're a company, they've been making products for a long time. They know what's going to sell, and I guess the bottom line is that people were not buying the smaller phones anymore. I know, like you mentioned, there are a lot of people that love that, and that's the reason why they've been sticking with this phone, but apparently it's not selling enough for them. And to be honest, I don't understand. There's nothing compelling about this phone anymore. Before, last year, the Zenfone 10, there were 3 things that set it apart. It was small, it had a headphone jack, and it had a fingerprint sensor on the side key. And, basically here in the US, Asus and Sony are the only ones that offer something like that. And they took away 2 of those things. Now the fingerprint sensor is in the screen, and now the screen is much larger. And this is basically just a non-gaming version of the phone they released about a month ago, the Zenfone, or not the Zenfone, the ROG Phone 8. And it just doesn't have the triggers, and it doesn't have the extra USB port. So it got the same cameras, it's got the same screen, it's got basically the same body to it. It's I don't see. So they're starting it at $900, and that will give you 12 gigabytes RAM and 256 gigabytes storage. And then you have a OnePlus 12, which is starting at $800, $100 cheaper for the same, same storage, same RAM, same processor. And the only differences between the two are really, like, with the Asus, yeah, you still have a headphone jack, but with the OnePlus, you have that mute switch. So, and me, I'd take that mute switch over the headphone jack because I could just use an adapter for headphones. So, I think unless you really want a headphone jack, there's really nothing compelling about this phone. And it has the same size battery as the OnePlus, so it's going to get really good battery life. I guess the cameras are comparable to each other, but OnePlus has the 4 years and 5 years updates, whereas the Asus has the 2 years and 4 years. So 2 years system updates, or 2 years OS updates, and 4 years security updates. Which, as we just mentioned, there's budget or mid-range phones getting twice as much updates, and Asus is trying to sell this flagship for $900 and telling you, you're only going to get 2 years of OS updates.
John, I agree with you that based on that, if I were given the choice between the OnePlus 12 and this one, absolutely I'll take the OnePlus, because most especially for the software support, 4 years. I may not keep it for that 4 years, but at least knowing that it has that, and then the resale value is also going to be a little bit better than something that only has like 2 years of OS updates. So frankly, I'll take the OnePlus any day over the Asus. It's so unfortunate though, because I like the whole idea of having the headset, headphone jack. I mean, I don't seem to have any more of those. Maybe now and then I have, those hybrids that come with the headphone jack plug on the headset, but that may not be something that compels me to buy this phone. I think if anything else that would keep me away from it is the OS updates. That's only limited to 2 years as to at least 3 or 4. I don't know why they chose to do that. Asus and Sony, you need to come up to where the boys are playing. It's time to quit this little kid stuff and do the right thing, shall we?
Yeah, I'm trying to think how many my Sony got. I think it was 2. The Sony I had, it did get the 2 years of software updates. I think that they promised, but it needs more. I've got to say though, like, I know this is possibly just me, but I hate the fingerprint sensor in the side key. I don't know if it's just me being slightly weird, but sometimes I want to look at the lock screen and not have my phone unlocked, and I don't like touch or raise to wake. And it just feels weird that the way I have to do that is to put a wrong finger on the side key to have that lock screen show. So like, put it in the back if you want a physical one, or like somewhere that's not the unlock button. Put it on a volume key or something.
Well, that makes two of us. I've never been a fan of having the finger reader on the power. I don't know. It just never appealed to me. I don't like that. I would rather have one at the back of the phone, or just give me the in-glass one. But if you're going to give me a physical, fingerprint reader, by golly, put that thing on the back of the phone. Don't put it on my power. But
Or
I
a
don't know.
volume key or something, but because I want to get to the lock screen sometimes, and it just feels weird that I have to put have an incorrect fingerprint registered in order to be able to do that, or to have like touch or raise to wake, which I don't like anyway.
Yeah, I had so I don't like double tap to wake or raise to wake, so I have those disabled, but Asus also lets you have a one finger swipe up turn on the screen. So I had that enabled, so I would just do that instead of press the power button. But yeah, you can't press the power button just to look at the lock screen unless you change the setting to have it make you swipe up every time to get off the lock screen. Like, it'll unlock, but it'll leave you on the lock screen. The way Samsung does it on their foldables, where they have the side fingerprint button, I don't know if they do it intentionally or not, but if you just press the button and take your finger off, it will keep you on the lock screen. Like, you have to actually press the button and keep your thumb there for it to unlock. Like I said, I don't know if they designed it that way or not, but it is easier on a Samsung device to just, if you just want to look at the lock screen, you just press the button and take your thumb off, and it'll stay on the lock screen.
I don't mind the under glass ones. I think for me they're fine. Samsung, I think they have it slightly lower than other manufacturers tend to. So if I'm switching between my occasionally used Samsung phones and something else, then it'll take me one try to get used to where it is again. But I do prefer the in-glass ones.
I have grown so used to the in-glass ones as well that, I get it first time, every time, most of the time. So it doesn't bother me at all. I really like the in-glass
No.
ones. So I'm not missing anything about the capacitive, fingerprint readers, either on
That's
the back
right.
or on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like my OnePlus and the Xiaomi, the OnePlus I used to have, they both have really good ones. You hit it first time, and for me, it goes.